What's up, bass players? Thanks for joining me in the studio. Today we're going to talk about major scale patterns, how you can use them in warm-ups, and how you can create your own. So let's dive in. So what I just used is the pattern we're going to use for today. Take a minute, pause the video, make sure you get your hand around that before we dive into the rest of everything else. Now that you have the pattern under your hand, we need to analyze it so we can move this shape around the instrument to all 12 keys. How we're going to analyze this is by assigning a scale degree number to each of the notes that we played. What I mean by scale degree numbers is just what it sounds like. As I go up my major scale from one note to the next, each of them just gets a note starting on 1, and then 2, 3, 4, etc. This pattern starts with the notes C and E. So if we assign scale degree numbers to that, it would be 1, because C is the first note of the scale. And now I'm just going to play up that C major scale until I get to the note E. So I would have C is 1, D is 2, and E is 3. So this pattern starts 1 to 3. My next note of this pattern was the note G, which in this case would be E is 3, F would be 4, G is 5. So this pattern starts 1, 3, and 5. Now keep in mind, those were scale degree numbers that I was just saying, not fret numbers. So take a second, pause the video, and try and assign a scale degree number to each note of the complete pattern. And again, for your reference, the pattern is right here for you. Going quickly through this now, just to make sure we're all on the same page, we should have 1, 3, 5, 7, 1, or 8, whichever one you want to assign. And then 6, 7, 5, 3, 4, 5, 2, 1. The reason we need to do the scale degree analysis is so that when I move this to my next key, and I'm going to go to the key of F major, I want to keep those scale degree numbers the same, but just put them into a new key. So how we're going to find that new key, how I got to F, is I'm just going around the cycle of fourths, which means that I'm going to start on the note C, and then I'm going to move up to the fourth note of my C major scale. So C, D, E, F. Once I have my note F, now I can use that as my new home key. So now I'm going to be in the key of F major. So if I do my analysis, even if just those first couple of notes, I'm just looking for what the root note of my F major scale is, F. That one's pretty easy. But then I need to find the third of my F major scale and the fifth, and so on with my analysis. To briefly explain this, F was 1, and now I need the third note of my major scale, so F, G, A is 3, so this pattern would start F to A, and then the next note was 5, so I would go A was 3, B flat is 4, C is 5, so this particular pattern will now go F, A, C, and so on from there. What I'll do now for you is play through the pattern in all 12 major keys, going around the cycle of fourths. 3, 4. F major. B flat. E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, B, E, A, D, Now keep in mind, it's going to take you some time to figure out that cycle of fourths where you're not having to actually analyze it every single time and count through your scale degree numbers, but the more you do it, the easier it will become and the quicker the process will be for you. So now let's look at a couple ways that we can manipulate even just that one pattern. Firstly, we were playing it as eighth notes. What happens if we change that rhythm? I can play it as triplets, let's say. So you hear how the accent pattern was slightly different, but the line works the same. I could also do this now as 16th notes. Ideally, what I would do is put a metronome on, let's say 60, and then play this pattern as eighth notes around all 12 keys, and then I would bump it up to 70 to 80 to 90 to 100. When I got to 100 at eighth notes, what I would do is bump the metronome back to 50 and play them as 16th notes, and they should sound the same, but the accent pattern's a little different. And then from there, again, I would maybe do 55, 60, 65, and progress my 16th notes that way, because every 5 clicks when you're at 16th notes is the same as going 10 clicks at eighth notes. It's getting quicker a lot faster. Now, another easy way to make this pattern more of your own and to continually coming up with new ideas is to take the same rhythm that we just played, but now just change the notes around. And you can even just reorganize the notes that are already there in terms of maybe just flipping a 2. So for example, I could do this. You'll notice that all I did was change the order of the first couple of notes, but the pattern ends the same. That's a very easy way to just adjust the pattern, make it sound how you want it to sound. You can also completely just throw random notes at the page with this same rhythm, and the pattern should sound fine. A general rule of thumb is that I want the pattern to start and end on the first scale degree. Doesn't always have to, and we can totally find examples of that not always being the case. But for just really basic warm-ups, I find that's a very helpful guiding principle, that we start and end at the same place, and that also helps your ear get around the patterns a little bit easier. There's a couple more advanced ways we could alter this pattern. Instead of going through all 12 keys, I could keep the pattern in one key, but play through all of the modes. So for example, if I play this pattern one more time as it was originally written, now I'm going to shift up to the second scale degree of C major and keep my pattern consistent so that all of my notes are in the key of C major. So again, all I did was I kept the intervals between each note the same, but just adjusted them so that I have it all still in the key of C major starting on the second note. And then I could go through and start on the third note of C major, and I could play through the whole pattern that way. And in fact, that's what I'll kind of do for you right now. I'll play through the modal version of what this could be, so you at least have something to come back to and analyze and listen to and try and figure out by ear. Done correctly, I just ended with the exact same pattern as I started with, just an octave higher. And in fact, that's another easy way we can manipulate the pattern, is to just play the very first original one in as many places in as many octaves as we can on the instrument. The last thing we could do is maybe change up the right hand pattern and use this as a slap study, where I implore more of my tremolo picking ideas for each of the notes. And it would look something like this in the right hand. Again, these are just different ways that I can manipulate one pattern to get more mileage out of them in my warm-ups in my practice routine. Ideally, I wouldn't spend much more than maybe 5 or 10 minutes warming up with these kinds of things. It's generally just the first thing I play on the instrument to get my hands and my head around what I'm about to do. That's all for today. Please subscribe and leave a like if you found this video useful. I'll see you in the shed.